Hi there, I'm Amy.
And I'm Sue.
And we're the mother-daughter duo behind Chatter Matters.
Each week, we're going to be chatting through everyday challenges and how we navigate them as two women from different generations.
So get yourself comfy, grab your cup of tea or coffee, and let us show you why Chatter Matters.
Hi, everybody.
Hello and welcome back.
Welcome back to Chatter Matters.
Chatter Matters. I don't know what that was. That's horrible. We're just going to pretend that didn't happen. No one needs to hear me sing.
Very good. Well, we're on episode 14.
Number 14.
And we thought that given we've been relatively...
serious, one could say.
One could say serious.
We've tackled serious matters, I guess.
We have tackled serious matters.
I guess that's probably a bit more accurate.
And when we've been sharing, we've been talking fairly traditional in terms of work, in terms of home life, relationships, all of that kind of stuff. So we thought this week...
We'll just go a little bit left field.
A little bit left field and share parts of us we don't normally share. Yeah. And what did you think we would call this?
Well, I was like, in my mind, when we've been talking about it, this has been our witchy woo-woo session, which I'm just really excited about.
So let's first of all talk about why you would call it witchy woo.
Yeah. Well, so I guess I grew up in a world in which you created. And that is a world in which... of using alternative medicine. We very much love, respect Western doctors. I've got a very close friend of mine who is a doctor. Western medicine, incredible. You've also brought us up with, homeopathy, with the local Chinese doctor. Oh my God, we're going to have so much to talk about. With angel cards, with just a little bit of, let's just play around the edges and see what the non-traditional side of the world could look like. And so to me, it's just a bit witchy woo-woo.
A bit witchy woo-woo. So kind of alternative medicines.
Yeah.
Bit of spirituality sprinkled in.
Yes. Because we're not, I think a key point, I can't remember if we've spoken about this in another episode, is we're not a religious, or at least you and I aren't religious.
No.
But we can get into the spirituality side of it a little bit later.
So yeah, I think a sprinkling of all of those.
Yeah.
Eastern medicine.
Yeah.
Just
anything that takes our fancy, really, to be honest.
Just
has a little bit of energy, a little bit of spice about it. You and I are like, might as well give it a go.
So where do you want to dive in? Because I there's a lot I could share.
I have a feeling I'm going to get to know a whole new side of you in this episode. I'm so excited.
So, I was brought up with my father telling stories about
I've completely forgotten that you have all of this in your back pocket.
My grandmother, who was a clairvoyant.
Yes. And for those who don't know, a clairvoyant is?
Somebody who can kind of commune with...
the dead.
Commune with the dead. And she used to go to a spiritual church.
Yeah.
So her thing was to go to a spiritual church. But she would do seances and readings.
I just find it so cool. You'll give us more background in a second because I'd completely forgotten how much we have this rooted in our bloodline.
Yes.
But I think a big disclaimer before we go into this is there's some very serious stuff that you can talk about and share. I approach all of this stuff really quite lightheartedly.
Yes.
And for me, it's just if, we'll talk about I love a tarot card. I've got my own tarot deck, which I absolutely love. And I've got a certain friend that I will do a lot of tarot readings with. And, Do I believe that they actually tell me the future? Do I believe that if I find it helpful, it's done something useful? Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Same with angel cards. Yeah. Same with homeopathy. Do I think arnica helps with bruises? Hell yeah, that's been proved in science. But do I think that, I don't know what it was, those weird little sugar pills you used to give us as kids, do I think they did anything? No. But they made me feel better. So I personally have a very lighthearted take on a lot of this stuff. And my guiding sense is always, if it's helpful for someone, if it helps someone work through something, if it brings clarity, if it brings peace, then I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I personally don't believe everything, including Western medicine, should be taken completely blindly.
Yeah.
You know, I think a certain degree of critical thought's important. So that's my caveat to start with. What's your, I know we will do deep dive into background, but I guess, where do you sit with all of it? Because I feel like you're a bit more of a believer than I am.
Well, I still dabble in it.
Yeah.
So I think I whether it is mind over matter.
Yeah.
So it gives you a way of looking at the world, a way of thinking about the world, and then do you then manifest it? Do you then create it because the picture has been...
You bring the energy into the world.
So I do believe that our mind...
are so much more powerful than we think they are.
Exactly. So I don't... Could I swear by it? No.
Yes.
Do I find it helpful for myself? Yes.
I would agree with you.
Have I got an open mind?
Yes.
About its potential? Why not?
Would I like to be a witch? Yes.
I would love to be a clairvoyant or a...
Ooh, would you? If you could pick like some kind of like superpower, something outside of the realm of what we believe to be possible.
Yeah, I would love to do readings.
As in like someone's aura, someone's future, someone's past. What kind of, where are we?
Oh, more, I mean, so the readings that
I love that you get this little grin on your face, like,
well, I mean, I've had a few readings that have really blown me away.
Yeah.
And
your bird one's weird.
My bird one is weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm seeing this woman that I've never seen before. Yeah. And often, so my other caveat is often I turn to this kind of when I'm seeking something.
Yes.
So
seeking answers.
Yeah. Like if I'm poorly, I go to the doctor. Yeah. But if I'm seeking answers on something, then I will turn left.
A little more alternative.
And go a little bit more alternative. So I guess that's kind of where my definition is.
And I think that would be similar for me, because like I'll only bring tarot out if I've got my friend Tom over.
Yeah.
Because he and I will have a right old giggle and we love it. We'll get all up in our energy and we'll just have a right old feel around the cards. Or if I'm really struggling with something, like, and I would agree. I think there are, and it's like, I just want a little bit of guidance.
Yeah.
And again, do the card, like, I don't know, is my honest answer, right? Like and we can talk more about this. We'll talk more about tarot in a second. I won't, because I'm excited to talk about it.
So that would be... So
you would want to do readings? Yeah,
I would love... So I think because I started with my grandmother, I mean, and interestingly, the lady that I had the reading with, she didn't want to do readings. And so the way she would describe it was that she would be lying in her bed and these voices would just like chatting to her. Yeah. And like she'd be putting pillows over her head and then the pillows would be down the stairs in the morning, and just trying to like, I don't want to hear these voices. Yeah. I don't want to communicate. But she was given no choice. Yeah. So she, like, for her, it was a gift that she was given, and therefore she utilised it. And I don't know who she is, and I couldn't find her again because it was a moment in time that I really needed something. She was amazing. I mean, the bird story was, I mean, I'd never met the woman before, and I'd barely thought about this memory ever. I was 7 years old, walking to school with my brother, pigeon on the floor, wings broken, couldn't move. My brother picks the pigeon up, takes him to school. There's a boiler room. He's in a box, and the caretaker says, "Leave him with me. We'll look after him." So at break times, I'd be out looking for worms and things to bring back the pigeon. So, and then he got better, and he flew off. And so I'm at this reading, and she said, "Oh, a pigeon's just flown in to say thank you." I mean, it's
moments like that. It's like, what the fuck?
Exactly. So I'm like, okay, and I was like, what oh my goodness, I'd not told anybody that story. But that was Marty shaking if you heard that. But that was what she relayed to me. So do I think there's something in it? Yes, possibly. Yeah. Because I've had various moments. No, and then also my grandmother, she would also do, I
I love that you have every now and then you have moments of going, this is going on the internet.
I know, exactly. A whole side of me that people don't know. So I went and did Reiki healing.
Yeah. So now this is, I think the Reiki, no, it's not true. There were some weird angel cards that really sold me on it. But like the Reiki in particular, that's some funky shit. That is some funky shit right there. So what's Reiki, Mum?
So it's sort of energetic healing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can feel my hands getting hot now. Whenever I talk about it, my hands get really hot.
They do.
They really do. So the reason why I did it was because when I would do deep processing work, I would shake. And the Quakers were born out of this energetic thing that you can create within your body. And I felt like I was getting these shakes and I was like, I've got so much energy going on. I don't know what to do with it. And then I heard about Reiki and I was like, oh, cool. You can literally get channeled and then you can like almost
give the energy to someone else.
Give the energy out, you know, whether it's to myself, whether it was to you as children. So I went and did the first class and then I went and did the second class. And as kids, I would. I mean, I remember you guys always just say, Jesus hands. Can we have the Jesus hands?
Like our small little brains could only comprehend. Of course, it's tied to religion. But I used to find it so comforting, like, because I get very painful periods. I get very painful period cramps. And before I was, you know, on birth control that helps me manage that pain, like that used to be the only thing that I used to get really panicky and anxious around my period. And when I was in the deep pain of it, it was the only thing really that I felt like could take away some of that pain. Again, is it placebo? You never know, because it's like, oh, your mum giving, you know, her divided, you know, the care, the attention, that kind of thing. Or did it genuinely help? It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter because it helped.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether the actual, you know, so.
Well, my grandmother, apparently my brother was born with a big birthmark on his face. And at a certain time of the day, she would ask my dad to sort of rub his thumb over the birthmark. And she would do whatever she did. And he doesn't have a single trace of it on his face anymore now. You know, so there are little things like that. I'm like, I think there is something in it. So your question, I probably am a little bit more of a believer than you are, but equally I don't.
Had more exposure to it than I have as well, I think.
Yeah, but I don't take it that seriously.
No, you're not. Well, and I think that's what I've just said shows the fact that you don't take it that seriously, because it's not like something that it's not like a belief system.
Yeah.
Type thing.
And that's partly because of my dad.
Yeah.
Because my dad never really practiced, even though his mum did. And he did get brought up in, you know, imagine the full shebang. You know, she went to spiritual church, she had clairvoyant readings. Like, I mean, she was full into it. That was how she lived her life. So he was brought up with that. And I remember when I first had my first sort of readings, and I remember being quite sheepish about telling my dad about it, but I did. And he was great. But he always said to me, be careful.
Yeah.
There's a fine line between, you know, kind of walking this path. And, you know, you can
go too far.
And it can go too far. And then you get into the whole sort of black magic sort of side of it. And I did also have an experience of that when I was a kid. We flew to Germany. Dad was in the army. We flew to Germany. And my primary school that I was in, I was 11 at the time, there was a whole load of weird shit going down in that primary school. There were kids saying the Lord's Prayer backwards. There was
That's weird. There was an army school?
It was like an international
school.
Sort of, you know, military school. So we all got sent home, and this is probably in the first month that I was there. I was like, what is going on?
These kids are possessed.
Yeah, well, it was like that, and we all got sent home for like a week or so.
Really?
Yeah, because it was so bad in the school. They'd like just shut the school down for about a week while they were obviously dealing with whatever happened. And then we came back and it was all fine.
Oh my God, I wonder if they did like some kind of like exorcism or something like that.
Well, obviously, and also took the kids that were that were creating the drama,
Yeah.
kind of took them away. Were they really? Had they learnt it? Was it a game?
Had they watched an old horror movie and decided they wanted to freak some people out?
Well, it was at the time when The Exorcist came out as well.
Okay.
So all of that was sort of bubbling, at the same kind of time. But so from that point, Dad was always like, be really careful with this, like, don't let it rule your life, kind of thing. So I think that's probably why you've
got like a healthy skepticism.
Held it.
I can
lightly.
imagine Pops really, like, because like I never saw him in a spiritual type setting.
No, I mean, he's a military man.
He's a military man through and through. Very traditional, like also quite a national, like English. He's got a lot of English pride.
Yeah.
And I just really couldn't imagine. Like, but I love that retrospectively I've learned that about him, because it just makes him that much more full of a man, and like I think he was a fabulous human, and like it warms my heart to know that like
there was this other side
of him, and then it also makes me a bit sad, because then it's like, ugh, if only we had more time, but that's the way life goes, sadly, sometimes. But
so I've talked about readings. I would love to do that. Reiki healing, also
I could just
very cool.
see you like shucked of capitalist society, living in a hut in the woods, just doing healing for people. And because fundamentally that's kind of what you do, just not in a hut in the woods. You do it in the middle of central London in corporate workshops, let's be honest.
using words, not hands, but it is right. It is another form of healing that I am doing.
Okay, so that's what you would choose, I guess. So where do we want to take this? What would you say? Do we want to talk about some of our own experiences? I think you've been touching on some of it.
Well, I mean, I think we should go tarot, because I literally had a tarot reading last week, which I haven't done for 5 years.
Yeah.
But I just felt like it was time. I had some questions.
Yeah. But it goes back to the seeking thing,
yeah, exactly.
Right? Like,
I was seeking some answers.
And I think in order to discuss tarot, we have to first discuss angel cards.
Fair.
Because that's what I grew up on.
Yeah, that's
fair. You used to have this little deck of angel cards, which is really interesting, isn't it? Because aren't they use Christian iconography, don't they? The angel cards.
Oh, I don't know.
I think it is, because it's saints and it's.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But there was this fantastic, gorgeous set of cards with like 50 odd different.
They were words. They were like qualities that would come out or something like that.
Love, compassion, family, care. I can only think of the positive ones now, but there was a load of them.
They were mainly there. I mean, there's 50 in a deck, and I haven't looked at them for ages, but I used to have them on my bedside table, and you and your brother would come in, and I'd be like, do you want to pick a card? And you were like, yes. So I would like shuffle them up, and then I'd fan them all out. And
then my brother would just pick one, and I would really connect. I'd really just like start putting my hands over, because like obviously by this point I knew about the Reiki healing, so I was like, oh, my hands warming up, here we go lads, and I'd wait for my hands to tingle. I loved the drama of it. But sometimes you'd pick one out and you'd be like, okay, temperance, great. But sometimes you'd pick one out, and I remember I must have been 14, 15, and I was dating my like sort of childhood sweetheart kind of thing. And we were going through a really tough time, and either we'd broken up or I can't quite remember it, but something was happening with my boyfriend at the time. And I remember pulling out a card, and it was like the Angel Michael or something like that. And I remember reading the reading and going, what in the sweet baby Jesus is this? Because it felt so relevant and just like I remember reading that and going, now this is really, really weird, because that is exactly what I've been thinking. This is exactly what I've been thinking about the situation.
It gave you what you needed to hear.
Exactly, because it was just like, oh my God, those are the words that I've been meaning to come up with. And I remember that moment so vividly, just of that feeling of, holy crap, this is right on the money, and I've just picked a random card out of a set of 50, and it has given me exactly what I needed in this moment. And And did I then start using them more often after that point? Yes, but then because you don't have a specific question, the power's diluted of it all. But like, I do just remember that moment, and so from that moment, I then started dabbling, because I dabbled in the witch space for a while.
You did? How old were you then? Like 13, 14?
I wasn't old.
You were you? Because you went into the whole scarf, and you
Yeah.
had like your magic scarf that you used to keep. And did you have like some crystals or something?
I had different coloured candles. Well, it's because also Charmed was on TV at that time. So Charmed was on E4, which is a TV series about three sisters who find out they're witches. Did I want to be one of those sisters? Yes. But it was all around the same time of like, I've had a couple of angel cards that really spoke to me. I'd started discovering tarot. I started researching like, how do you become a witch? And there are some hilarious. There's a website called like Book of Spells or Magic Spells or something like that. I don't know. And I would write some of them down sometimes, and I tried to do a few, and then I'd lose interest, and I have like a random red birthday candle in the top of my wardrobe. But it was for a hot second, and it was what I found so interesting was actually discovering that there are just so many people out there who do really subscribe to some of this stuff. There are online covens, and like it was just a whole world that I didn't even know existed, and that you don't know exists in the mainstream. But again, it goes back to like, for so many people that will be finding community, it will be finding like-minded spirits who just want to connect and heal or whatever.
I think there is a witch archetype, for women, that part of you that feels
intuitive. That kind of crone energy as well, isn't it? Like
intuitive, magical, like gifted, there is that part of you, and I think also you grew up with fairy tales, the Hansel and Gretel, and they go in and they find the witch in the woods, and Little Red Riding Hood and the grandmothers, so that you've grown up with that.
And in the same way that we wonder whether superheroes could be real, it's I feel like it's only natural to then wonder if, like, it's the same, we saw the same thing with Harry Potter, right? Everyone being like, am I just a muggle? When am I going to get my letter through the...
Just a muggle.
When am I going to get my letter through the letterbox?
But I remember even in the coaching space, there were people that were much more spiritual and kind of enlightened, which you and I talked about before, and they were like, oh, they're just all muggles. They're all just
Stop
all
it.
muggles.
That's so embarrassing that they'd use that in a non-Harry Potter related context. I actually just think that's really embarrassing. But going back to the tarot piece, I don't think you and I have ever got so tangential. Like we have zipped across topics. But I then after I experimented with salt circles for a while, I then we did a bit of research, didn't we? And you should be gifted your first tarot deck. And I think I must have been gifted when I was around 16.
Yes,
you gave me my first tarot deck.
I did.
And I popped it in the light of a full moon, and I slept with them under my pillow, and I did all the things you're meant to do to imbue them with your energy. And I love them, and I still got them. And I've had them for nearly 10 years now. And I love them, and I love being able to, that sense of just mysticism that comes with it, and actually I just so much prefer doing readings for other people. I hardly ever use them for myself, and I do use it with like my friendship group from home, because they're the people that I feel most comfortable doing it with. I don't actually know if any of my work friends know. They're about to find out.
I don't think many of my work friends either do, so we just blown our cover.
But I really love that whole, someone who's a bit skeptical about it all, and like just that whole, just getting them to think a bit more deeply about a topic. For me is fundamentally what tarot does, is that it helps you put a different, and I always say to people whenever I sounds like I do lots of tarot readings. I really don't.
You haven't touched your tarot deck in years.
I haven't in a really long time.
Yeah.
Tom brought his out the other day, and we used his, but I haven't used mine in ages. But I love that moment of that conversation with someone going like, look, this, you may just keep an open mind. And the things that I'm about to say may not make sense. And that in itself can be helpful, because you can go, no, that's not how I feel about a topic. That in itself is useful. Yeah. As if you listen to it and go, oh my God, that's exactly what I needed to hear. Yeah. It's like, it can help guide you to greater clarity, regardless of whether you directly relate to what's being said. More often than not, you find a few nuggets that people relate to. But
yeah, and I think, I don't know, we talked before about kind of seeking, you know, I was just thinking about why do I turn to it? I think there is when I'm seeking answers. I'm also when I'm trying to sense make. Yeah. Like it gives me another lens into trying to make sense of the world, and make sense of my, you know, my own thoughts. So I just think it's another little lens, another little thing to add.
So I want to come to alternative medicine in a little bit, and we'll go back to the Reiki thing, but I think I just want to take a pause on the conversation and go, are there any wacky witchy woo woo bits that you don't subscribe to, that you think are just a bit of bollocks?
I'm not sure about Ouija boards.
Oh yeah, you don't like them, do you?
No, I think partly because I grew up around the time of Exorcist and all that kind of stuff, and that just feels a bit too far.
Freaks you out, yeah.
Freaks me out a little bit. So that I don't. I would never go and do that.
Would you do a séance?
I would, if you know, like the big arenas where you sometimes have these kind of, you know, and they
basically like a magic show.
Exactly. You know, Diane's talking to me. Yeah. Does anybody know a Diane? I mean,
we should so go to one of those. That would be so funny.
I think I'd feel safe in numbers.
Right, you wouldn't want to do like go to a random lady's house around a circle of candles and all sit and hold hands and.
No, I go on my own.
You're like either in Wembley Arena or by myself.
I know. So when Dad passed, I did go and see somebody. I don't know if you know.
I don't know if I knew that.
No, I found somebody in the town that we're in, and she did a reading, and she was fine actually.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, because I kind of just wanted to know they were okay.
Yeah.
And so she did a reading, and I got the comfort I needed. Again, I don't know whether it's true or not, although she did say something that at the moment I had forgotten, and I keep remembering it now, was that she said, so my mum and dad both used to go bowling, like green bowling. And she said, you know, she didn't know me from Adam, never met the woman before. She said, oh, your mum and dad are really happy. They're bowling with all their friends. I can just see greenery around them and all the rest of it. So that was really comforting. And they, you know, they were like, they're having a lovely time, and that they, you know, they want you to be happy. And then she said that I keep getting the word ring. Is there anything to do with a ring? And at that moment in time, I said, no, there's nothing to do with a ring. And then I realised afterwards I had actually got my sister, their wedding bands. I'd actually got them turned into a piece of jewellery, a necklace for her, because, you know, as the readers will know, my sister is blind.
The readers?
Listeners will know. Well, they might be reading it too. The listeners will know my sister is blind. So it was a tactile, and like she couldn't see photographs, so it was a tactile thing. And I actually got a really lovely necklace made out of their rings. And I, at that moment when she said to me rings, you know, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, kind of thing. But afterwards I was like, oh crap, that's what she must have been going on about. Anyway, so I would go on my own, or in a big room,
in a big arena,
but not like. It's probably because that's what I've seen on the movies, you know, where it just goes a bit weird.
But you're not big on the Ouija board.
No,
that's a hard line.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I wouldn't. No, I don't think I'd go to one of those.
Yeah, I'm also. I just generally a bit weird about the whole connecting with death situation. That freaks me out a bit. Just in general, I think I'm okay not knowing what's on the other side. Just live in blissful ignorance. When I'm dead, that's a problem for dead me.
Yeah, no, Yeah, I mean, that as I said, that reading I had was more of it was a comfort. Yeah, you know, but she could have said that. I don't know. She managed to pick out bowling and greenery, so it felt like there was something in it.
See, having said all of this, I'm really not a big horoscope girl.
Are you not? No, I'm not particularly either.
I just think. You know, but it's so funny though, because horoscopes for me I feel very similar to tarot in the sense that. You know, but I think a part of it is because I study psychology, and there's a lot of evidence, there's a lot of research that goes into the way that they're written, and that they're written in a way that everyone everyone reading could relate to something.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think that's why I'm not as keen on them versus tarot, where it's like, you know, you can do like just a 3-card thing, or you can do like, I quite like a Celtic cross, which is past, present, future. What's the present issue? What's some of the challenges you're facing? What external pressures? That kind of thing. Where like you are actually getting quite specific, and you know, like it just, I feel like it's a little bit more honed in on an individual, whereas I think horoscopes are just. But hey, if again, to each their
But
own.
I have had my chart done.
Yeah, your birth chart.
My birth chart. That was kind of interesting. I'd love to get that done
at some point.
Yeah.
Having just said I don't do the whole horoscope thing.
No,
but
that's not like your newspaper horoscope.
Yes.
You know, that is more.
Well, it's because it's to do with like the time of your birth, isn't
exactly,
it? And where the planets are in the sky.
And the moon descending and all that kind of stuff. So it is quite detailed. And it sort of predicts stuff based on the time of birth and what have you. So I think
very interesting.
I think it's quite interesting.
Yeah.
What else have you dabbled in anything else?
Not really. I think I would love. So I guess the only other, which is not really like a spiritually type thing, but you know, just like I was just thinking of that zero sound, zero gravity pod that we went into in that spa. It's not really related in the slightest, but never mind. to me, I hated it. It felt a bit weirdly spiritual. I didn't like it very much.
What, the floating tank thing?
Yeah, the floating tank I had to keep it cracked open a little bit because I couldn't deal with the fact that it was going to be all dark. I'm like, because sorry, I'm getting really off topic now, but when I nap, and like I will often jerk awake. And so I was convinced I would drown because I would fall asleep. I had to keep myself awake the entire time. So I'd fall asleep and then I'd jerk awake and then I'd lose all ability to move and then I'd drown and no one would hear me. So I had to keep it cracked so that I could keep a bit open.
Escape route.
Yeah. But I have the same when we do the LED facials. I have to stay awake the whole time because what if I jerk and like smush my face against the red LED and I'm got like burns, 3rd-degree burns on my face.
Oh god, no! I pass out. I think I'm snoring underneath.
What if I roll over like? Terrified. So I literally I'm in the sorry, I'm so off topic now, but I'm in the facial room like digging my nails into my hand, moving my legs to like keep myself awake.
Seriously, I never knew
that. I'm terrified the entire time. It's 20 minutes of me just like fully trying to meditate because I'm so anxious, but not trying to meditate too hard that I fall asleep.
I never knew that. Oh my goodness. So the only other thing that I haven't spoken about that I have also done is I did do one hypnotherapy session.
Oh yeah.
Which was weird.
Yeah.
It was kind of weird.
I'm also not interested in that, but I've got a massive control thing. I'm a bit of a control freak, so like I can't be doing that.
So that was kind of interesting.
In what way?
Well, I'm not going to share.
Okay.
I'm not going to share what came out because it was wild.
Oh, I know, I do remember this.
No, but we're not putting that on the internet.
No, you're not putting that on the internet.
That was wild. The bit that I did enjoy when I came out of the hypnotherapy was this like conversation with my granddad.
Yes.
That was very sweet. I kind of liked that bit.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't mind being hypnotized again. That doesn't.
You're. I feel like you're just very open-minded.
Yeah.
Like you're pretty open to trying just about anything. You know
what about mushrooms? Would you do that?
No, I don't. Again,
ayahuasca kind of stuff.
No,
again,
I wouldn't
it's a control
thing.
Yeah,
but it's generally why I don't do drugs in general because I just don't like the idea of having a bad trip. Like for no other reason, obviously drugs are bad mostly in general, but like I'm a massive control freak and I'm terrified
I don't like
of losing
them.
Control.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
But you've
enjoy
got
it.
friends who've gone to the Amazon rainforest.
And done ayahuasca and been on a whole
that
thing.
Doesn't appeal to me in the slightest.
No. But I have very like normal corporate friends that have played in this kind of space that again you would never imagine that they've kind of dabbled in in that side of things.
And it's so fun. I think linking back to like why talking about this kind of stuff, like does it matter, this one? No, not really. But like, do I think it's quite fun sometimes just to like see what you've got in common with people.
Yeah.
And like, I remember the first time, I've spoken about my lovely friend Tom quite a lot in this, but like, I remember the first time I brought up tarot with Tom, it was a bit of a giggle and a bit of like, oh, what is this? This is a bit silly. Now he's got his own deck.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like, you never know what kind of
you don't.
connection you might make with someone. And it doesn't need to be this full on like, I'm going to become a Reiki healer, you know, but it could be like, oh my God, I had this really interesting conversation with someone the other day about X, Y, and Z. Or I listened to two batshit crazy ladies on a podcast talk about the fact that she's got Jesus hands. And
I think it is quite interesting. I mean, the other day when I was doing a work thing, actually, the lady is listening to this podcast potentially, but she was very open that she'd done Reiki and very proud the fact that she'd done Reiki. So I think there's also like,
it's not shameful.
It shouldn't be shameful, this kind of stuff. I think
no. And I think that's something that I need to get better at, is because I do think some of my skepticism is a way to make my interest in it palatable to others.
Yeah.
Of like, I think this conversation, it's quite clear I'm a bit more of a believer than I think I initially started off painting myself as at the beginning of this episode. But I think part of that is because I make it a bit, because I don't mind talking about it to other people, but therefore I potentially make myself sound a bit more skeptical than I necessarily am to make it palatable for someone else to be interested in it.
So you're kind of censoring for societal...
Yeah, to make it a bit easier to have a conversation with someone who's potentially incredibly skeptical or just doesn't have the open mind for it.
Yeah.
So if therefore, you know, it's that whole thing around like stand-up comedians often will start off with jokes about themselves, because if they make it okay for you to laugh at them, then they can start making jokes about other people. It's the same kind of thing for me of like, well, if I can take the piss out of it to start with,
then it makes it easier for people to come in. Yeah. I think that's probably true. And I was just thinking about your talking about other, you know, because I did take you to Chinese doctors. Like, you didn't like the Chinese doctor.
No. But I didn't like it because he was telling me to do things that I just thought were a load
wrong.
of bollocks. I've sworn a lot in this episode. It's clearly brought out a side of me.
So I know you didn't particularly like
I think I didn't like his energy.
No.
He and I did not jive.
No, but it's very sorry.
To this day, I don't like the man. I'm not gonna lie to you.
No, I know you didn't. I know, and I only took you like once or twice, and I can't remember what it was about. Maybe skin, I think.
He kept telling me I was a fucking flower. I'm not a flower. And he kept telling me to drink room temperature water. Do I drink room temperature water now? Yes. Will I credit to him? No. I rarely drink icy cold water. I'm the person at the water cooler at work choosing the like tepid water as opposed to the icy water. Will I say it's from the Chinese doctor? Absolutely not.
But I did take your brother, and his eczema cleared up. There's two things that have happened, because I think your brother's quite sceptical of most of this, but not Chinese medicine.
I can't wait for him to listen to this and we can talk to him about it later.
I know, because one, he probably doesn't remember the Chinese doctor, but the Chinese doctor helped him with his eczema, because he had some very bad eczema. I'm sure he will remember though. But I also introduced him to a lady that does Chinese massage.
He loves it.
And the whole cupping business, she would do. I mean, he literally could not put his arm above his head. He
was not a flexible boy.
And she did a load of cupping on him. And literally by the end of the session, he was like, I can't believe it. You know, like his arm was right above his head. So he's
this has just brought back a memory of, I went to go and see the same lady because I was having migraines and that kind of thing, and she did some acupuncture on me. Acupuncture, that's another one.
Oh yeah,
big fan of acupuncture.
Yeah,
I think that's fantastic. I have such a vivid memory of she was doing, again, who knows if this is like homebrewed chiropractic. You never know sometimes.
No, she would seriously go after. She would
seriously, and I'm sat there I'm cracking in places I should not be cracking. But I have this vivid memory because I just had acupuncture done, right? I've not got a stitch of clothing on apart from this really thin little towely sheet thing. And I'm face down and she's contorted me in such a way. And she starts rolling me backwards and forwards and the table's moving. I'm moving. Things are cracking. And I remember just being like, I don't think I'm going to come back. This is too much for me. This is actually, if this is for my brother, if he likes it, Godspeed. But me feeling like I could be launched through a wall at any moment was just a bit too far for me.
Oh, the other thing it's brought my memory back was when I was traveling in India. I went with a very good friend of mine that we work with, and we went to a ashram. Is that what they call them? I think
maybe.
they're called ashrams, where people go and it's kind of a spiritual thing. It's beautiful ashram, and the hall that they were all in was just decked, and it was gorgeous and it was lovely. So while we were there, I convinced him that he needed to have this massage because he doesn't really do massages. And then I also had a massage, but I had like this chakra massage, and he had this full-on oil thrown all over him, like being thrown around the table. He had like this sort of leather thing that went through his legs, and I mean, when he tells the story, it's just hilarious. But then, of course, my massage, he'd come out of it and he was like in shock because of the thing that he'd been through. And he said to me, "How is your massage?" And I was like, "Well, literally just put a finger in the centre of my head and just rubbed it for like half an hour."
That's so funny. So you know the people who do that, the aura cleansing, like picking it out of the air. That's so funny.
Oh God, it's such a funny memory.
So what would you say your takeaway from all of this would be? I feel like most of it is just you and I have giggled for about 40 minutes at this point.
I think not to take it too seriously, but to keep an open mind and have a play with it. You know, like I just don't think you should shut it down. I mean, some people that, you know, have had cancer, they have had aromatherapy, alternative therapies, and they swear by it. Yeah. You know, so I don't think you should shut this stuff down. I think you should have an open mind and you should give it a go. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, you haven't lost anything.
Exactly. It's like, it feels like it is a piece of a puzzle, right? I think, like, to your point of something that you said earlier around, like, you know, it doesn't necessarily take the place of, you know, like if I'm ill, I'll go see a doctor.
Exactly. Western medicine. In pain, go and get some help.
But I think it goes back, you know, because there's that TV show that's on Netflix, Apple Cider Vinegar, which is about a like influencer in Australia who faked having cancer and faked her cancer being cured by alternative medicines.
Oh, really?
And sold thousands of books, earned a huge amount of money. So I think, you know, so it's, as you say, there are some very good success stories, and then there are also people who, on the flip side, who are scamming this kind of thing. So as you say, have a play, don't take it too seriously. If it's helpful, fantastic. It is not, I personally, there is a degree of skepticism and a degree of reality that needs to go with all of it, so that everyone is safe, healthy and well.
Yeah, definitely. But I think like kind of not being shamed about talking about it as well, I think is also a like there's nothing wrong.
No.
You know, and people, you know, do benefit from it. Yeah. So I don't think we should write it out. I think balancing Western and Eastern would be my preference in life.
Exactly. I love it. Fabulous. I think we'll draw a close there.
I mean, I hope you enjoyed the episode.
We had a whale of a time. I don't think I've actually laughed on this podcast yet, but that has actually made me giggle.
So yeah, I had a lot of fun. Please subscribe, give us a
review,
like,
drop a comment, all of the above.
Let us know. Let us know if you have tried anything that we haven't mentioned that you think we ought. Because Amy and I could go and explore it.
Oh my God, we can go and try something. I think we need to book in big arena style seance. That needs to be something that we go and do together. But yeah, if anyone's got any ideas, we would 100% go try it and report back.
Yeah, we could go and do it and then do a podcast on it.
Yeah, exactly. We will go be your guinea pigs.
Yeah. Okay, bring it on.
Sorted. Done. Sold.
All right, everyone. Have a lovely week. Thanks for listening.
And we will speak to you later.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.